My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
Hi and welcome to the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast. This is a weekly show dedicated to all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. I'm your host Macca 19 and with me is co-host DonDraper. How are you, mate?
Hey. Good, mate. How are you?
Good. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
And for the first time on the podcast, we've got Doctor Feel.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello. Good to be here.
Breaking the podcast cherry tonight.
Yes, that's always good.
Yes. Now, as we do with all the newcomers on the podcast, we'll find out a little bit about your Port supporting history. So how did you come to support Port Adelaide?
Alright, basically, I kind of wasn't interested in football until like about age 14, 15 thereabouts. But my dad was like a huge supporter, like big time. He used to even like force my mum to go to games at Alberton and things like that. So he was a pretty ardent supporter. But basically, yeah, I wasn't really interested till my later years. But unfortunately, my father passed away when I was about 10 years old. Yep. To put into perspective how much of a big supporter he was, he actually had the Magpies flag draped on his coffin. So pretty much after that, it became pretty obvious to me like how important it sort of was to him. And I feel I have like a connection to him through my passion with football.
Yep.
But I still remember like my first game and things like that. I mean, my very first game, I never went to Alberton with him, unfortunately, but I did go to Amy for one of the matches in Port's first season. I don't remember too much because I was really, really young, but I do distinctly remember the old seats and everything at Amy. And I remember calling someone Corns when it wasn't Corns or something like that, and I distinctly feel awful for that, even though it's been a long time and I had no idea who any of the players were, but I still feel guilty for that.
As you would back then. I mean, that was still right. Probably a bad thing to say.
That's right.
Mistakes, really.
All right. Well, that's your first game. What's your favourite game?
That's probably a bit of a tough one, but I mean, the one that comes to mind like immediately when you ask me that question is probably, it wasn't a big one in the context of anything, but it was Richmond. I think it may have been 08, 09 or something. The Treadray game, the one where he sort of, everybody had written him off and then he sort of dragged us back in and then took that game-saving mark as well at the end.
Yep.
That one just stands out for me.
Yeah, I couldn't go to that game. I was bitterly disappointed. My dad rang me after the game and said, "You've missed a bloody ripping match." I was like, "Oh,
that was
no."
fantastic. That was a fantastic game of footy, yeah.
Oh, don't rub it in.
Yeah.
Robin Nahas played an absolute blinder as well.
Yeah. He did, and I hated him ever since.
And Troy Chaplin made an absolute fool of himself directly in front of goal. So
that's not out of the ordinary, that's for sure.
No. Troy Chaplin making a fool of himself happens on a fortnightly basis, surely. So
he would have had a shot for goal, missed it, and then he would have been pointing and yelling at other people.
That's pretty much exactly what happened too. What about your favourite player?
Favourite player is another tough one. I mean, last year it was that case of like all played well. My favourite player tends to change, but last year, I mean, I tend to like the tough nuts rather than the accumulators. I'd probably go with Tom Jonas.
Okay. Yep. That's the second Tom Jonas favourite on the podcast.
Oh, good. I'm happy with that.
I think Schulzenfest had him as his favourite as well. So
good.
Yeah. Good player. And what about historically? Who've you sort of gone for in terms of favourite players?
Given that I wasn't into footy that much, I mean, the one I'm most enamoured with in terms of like history and things like that is probably the legend of Dave Granger.
Yep. Fair call. We want to hear
a
bit more about that sometime on the podcast, I think.
Sure.
There's that wonderful thread started by me about the Port Adelaide stories, and they pretty much all involve Dave Granger at the moment.
They do, yeah, pretty much.
Which is fantastic.
I think
Yeah.
I've actually put him down as Dad's favourite player on the honour board because I actually paid to get him on the honour board as well.
Yep.
Good stuff.
Beautiful. Right, well, we've got a bit of a pre-draft special tonight. It's part one of a two-part special. What we're going to do is, well, for me anyway, the draft is probably just about the best date on the football calendar outside of the grand final. I love the lead up to it. I love reading all the phantoms and all the stories and who are we going to pick and searching for as much info as possible on that great day of hope that, you know, every player we've picked is going to turn out to be a superstar of the competition. Now, sometimes players like that live up to it, but more often than not, they don't. So what we're going to do is we've picked our personal top 5 and worst 5 draft picks for the club since 1996. See who made an impact and who definitely didn't. So, Dr. Feel, I might get your number 5 first, mate. Who have you got for your worst?
Best or worst?
Worst.
Okay.
Yeah.
I actually went with probably one that's going to be a little bit controversial, but at a very important time in the club's history, I actually went with pick number 11, Adam Thompson, in 2004.
Fair enough. Yep. Okay. Why have you picked Adam Thompson?
Just because, as I said, it was pretty important at that time, and given that the 2004 draft was just phenomenally awful, I thought that it was probably one of our biggest blues, and that sort of decision at that point in time is kind of how we ended up being so sucky in 08, 09, etc.
Yep. That's fair enough.
Shout out to our former Finbar there. I think he was a big Adam Thompson fan. I think he wanted us to
and Tribe.
stick with him. And Tribe, was it?
Yeah.
No,
And myself. Oh, I love Tommy. Tommy,
Mad.
I'll never, I'll always love Tommy, even though he ended up being a failure in the end. I think he was probably a little bit hard done by, just in terms of his body shape and the way he played the game. He was probably about 10 years too late for that.
I didn't mind him, but yeah.
I'm pretty sure all the pre-draft chatter that year was that we were going to pick Momfries with our first pick.
Well, he's ended up with us anyway, hasn't he?
Yeah, but it would have been nice if he was with us from the start, I guess. But Don, who's your number 5 worst pick for Port Adelaide?
Well, it was almost Adam Thompson, but I've actually gone just for a bit of a comical one here. Brad Symes. I just never liked him. I think he was picked 30.
Yep.
For us, yeah. And obviously he was quite even more tainted. He obviously played the 07 grand final.
Yep, sure did.
And was they debut? I think. Well, one of his first few games at least, yeah. Oh. And he came in obviously because Wilson got injured and everyone loves Wilbur. And then went to the Crows, so it just...
Big shoes to fill, admittedly, when you're coming in to replace him.
He actually had a pretty good game in the grand final. I thought he was probably one of our better players.
He was one of those people that didn't do much with it, though.
Yeah, that's probably right.
I've been in Inception from the 2007 grand final. It's just like, you know, I just have no memory of it whatsoever.
I'm kind of the same.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a bit of a story about Symes.
Okay.
It's not much of one, but I remember distinctly going to the preseason family day, and they, you know how they have that, you know, silly Mickey Mouse sort of practice match. Yep. I distinctly remember Brett Ebert tackling Symes right in front of me, and basically it was just your average run-of-the-mill tackle, but Symes ended up sort of going into the sort of boundary fencing.
Yep.
And he got up immediately and, you know, was screaming what the F was that for, and was, you know, wouldn't let it go, and was having a go at Ebert. And I thought, not keen on this guy.
No, I think he also won some like award for having a good smile or something. I don't know. It just annoyed me. Just
typical Crows award.
Yeah, there's something about his mum as well, wasn't there?
Yeah, his mum. It came out after he got traded to the Crows that his mum was a massive Crow fan. She's got a tattoo on her ankle of a crow, and she said how in the 07 grand final she barracked against her son. was there and was barracking for Geelong on the day.
I don't know how you can do that.
A classy family.
Classy, absolute class there. Look, I quite liked Brad Symes when he started. He kind of hit with a bang with centrals, and he came into that SANFL side and got plenty of the ball, but it was kind of how he played the game in the end. Whether at SANFL or AFL level, he could always rack it up, but he just couldn't do anything with it. He just always telegraphed kicks and just rarely hit the target and just wasn't that good.
In a sort of weird way, that kind of sums up our entire backline in like the last few years under Choco. For example, Peter Burgoyne, God bless him, but in his last few years, he used to get heaps of it, but he used to frustrate me with his use.
Absolutely. Yeah. As soon as he got pigeonholed in that back flank, that was the end of him, really.
That's right.
Just before we leave Brad Symes, but didn't he also break his arm or something in pre-season by riding around on a cart or something? And
yes, I think it was on the back of a ute, wasn't it?
Yeah, he fell off the back of the ute. Yeah, and broke his arm. Yeah,
that was at the Crows.
He was one who took his football very seriously, Bradley.
Absolutely.
From that.
Definitely. All right, now my number 5 worst draft pick is someone that we picked with pick 42 in the 2008 draft, and he goes by the name of Mitch Banner. Now, nothing actually against Mitch personally. I think he was a reasonable player. I thought he was a little bit hard done by. I really loved the way he went about it. But in 2008, the one player that we spoke to more than any other player that year was Rory Sloane, and he's also the player. Sorry, we are also the team that spoke to him the most out of any club as well. And we chose Mitch Banner with pick 42. I guess we must have thought he was going a bit higher than that. Rory Sloane went to the Crows with pick 44, 2 picks later. And in my opinion, Rory Sloane's probably the perfect addition to our midfield at the moment.
The cause and effect approach.
The cause and effect, yep, just because of the whole sliding door sort of thing. And, we could have had Sloane, but we chose Banner. Banner, 4 years later, he's now out of the system, and, Sloane's probably a top 50 player in the AFL. So, one of those could have beens.
Just on Banner, I actually didn't mind him. I just think he was really slow, but he had a good goal. He had a good goal sense. I remember that absolute shellacking we got from Collingwood at home on a rainy Saturday night. It was over 100. I think we kicked 3 goals, and I'm sure Russell Hamble will correct me tomorrow if I'm wrong with this, but I think Mitch kicked 2 of our 3 goals that night.
Pretty sure he did, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe it's more a case of if Mitch was coming into a better system, he could have been a better player. But it's a whole sliding door thing, you got to...
I would actually say I would have preferred us to delist Thomas and have kept Banner.
I think most people would have been pretty similar. I know it sort of split the board 50-50 on those who thought it was fair and those who thought it was pretty tough. And he's killed it in the waffle this year, so there's a fair chance he might get redrafted.
I think we should rookie list him, Dr. Feel. What do you think?
I'd say he's probably done his dash with us.
Yeah.
All right, Dr. Feel, you're number 4.
Okay, number 4. I've actually gone with Minson in 2005.
He was on my short list.
Yes. Basically, to draft someone who then had a degenerative knee condition is silly. And given that, tools are pretty important, you do put a few years into them. How long was he on our list? I didn't actually research that. It wasn't very long, though, was it?
1.5 years, I believe.
1.5 years, so that's absolute waste.
I think he retired during 2007 because of his knee.
It's absolute waste. But then again, the whole of 2005 was put a blanket over it.
Yeah. I never really understood that pick. I never understood it at all. I don't know what we were thinking.
It's a Choco special.
Yeah.
Well, where was he from?
Well, he played for Norwood, but I'm pretty sure he was a PAC kid, and he played a lot of school footy, and he only played something like 2 games for Norwood in his draft year.
You know what? That sounds a lot like our pick of Kerno.
Yeah, it could be. Yep. Very similar.
And that turned out rubbish too, didn't it?
Well, he was last pick in a rookie draft or something, so I guess the
it can't be
the
too
cost
hard.
effectiveness there was pretty low, but yeah, that's fair enough. I think there's not really many players that went after him that were any good. Clint Bartram, Matthew Stokes, that's pretty much it, really. So
Yep.
it's not like we really missed out on anybody with that one.
So
No,
like,
that entire draft was like, it was Lower, Minson, Thomas, and Bentley.
And Carlisle, we got Paddy.
That's
That's-
about the only one that sort of upsets it. Oh, and Logan. We got Logan very late in the rookie
last
draft.
last round in the rookie draft, that one.
Yeah, well, there you
Logan
go.
was a great pickup for a rookie.
Yeah.
That's the old money ball.
All right, Don. What about your number 4 worst pick?
Well, I'm going to follow on the same theme of my number 5 and go with another Judas in Nathan Cracker.
Okay, that's an interesting one.
He was, yeah, I don't know. I just think he was pick 39. He did have a bit of dash and showed something for us, but he left on really bad terms. Like it just left a bad taste in my mouth.
I actually totally agree with that. I think it's very rare that you'd actually draft a player like him that had, he played some decent games, but overall he had a detrimental effect on the club.
Yeah.
Yep, that's a fair call.
You were a fan, Macca, of Cracks?
I was, yeah. I liked the way he went about it. I loved his skill level.
Mm-hmm.
The way he came onto the scene was very similar to Jakey Need this year, in his first year.
Oh, definitely.
And I thought, I remember seeing him, in his first year at SANFL level, just dominate on a wing, just getting 25 touches and a couple of goals every week. And I thought, as soon as he gets the confidence and the body to do that at AFL level, he'll be an absolute superstar. But he had one good year playing off a back flank, but that was about it, really. And even then, he was still giving up a couple of goals a game just by turning it over from kick-ins.
The thing that used to makes me warm to Jake Need and not to Nathan Cracker, even though they've, as you said, Macca has got a comparison between the two. It's definitely body language. It's just I can't warm to people with laconic styles, and you go, oh, what about Justin Westhoff? But he's a bit different because he's sort of proven himself. But
look, I think
demeanor is a big
Cracker
thing for me.
was very outside. He was an outside player.
Yeah.
And Jakey Need, obviously,
Absolutely.
he does a lot of the 1%ers that Cracker would never ever have done ever.
And that's pretty special.
All right, my number 4. Keeping it in the family, like Dr. Phil's number 4 pick, I'm going to choose Matthew Westhoff, who was pick 33 in the 2007 draft. Why? Tell me, why would we pick Matthew Westhoff in the second round of a national draft? I still can't believe it.
That's
It's phenomenal.
It was a waste of a pick
as
at
I
the
said
time. It was a
before.
waste of a pick 5 years later. Just horrid.
Choco special.
Absolute horrid. It was a Choco special, that one.
Yeah, that was the old draft all the brothers. That'll be a great solution to all our
The
problems.
main thing was if he was, I don't know, sort of like an Alan Murray, where he had a really good year, and you could understand why he got drafted. Then fair enough. But look, he was 19 or 20 years old, playing in the SANFL reserves. He hadn't debuted for Centrals yet.
It was from
Just
nowhere,
don't do
not even
that.
on the
You just
radar.
don't do that. That's just a horrid pick. I mean, that sort of pick went out in 1993 when the draft sort of got semi-professional, let alone professional. And the fact that we
It just
missed out on a
freed out the
couple of
draft
decent
pick, let's be
players
honest.
afterwards as well made it none the more frustrating. I think the number 1 player we missed out on was Chris Mayne, who went a couple of picks later.
Yeah, I've got that down here as well, yeah.
So that's very frustrating.
I think we all had Matthew Westhoff in our top 5, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I have a replacement for him though, so I could go with that.
Yeah, I actually had him at number 3, Macca. Matthew Westhoff. Yeah, it was just a dud draft for us, that one. And I think we did really well in 06, 08, and even 09, so it's frustrating. We could have had that a good crop come through then, just complement our side currently beautifully. So.
Our first round picks have been awful since their inception. in the AFL, just
Yep.
about. With the exception of, Boki and probably once, and Wingard.
I still don't understand it. I'm still scratching my head. It's just why would you
He
do
must have shown something at down at Barossa, surely.
The only story I can think of is I remember hearing that that North Melbourne were really interested in him at pick 37, and they ended up getting Scott Thompson with that pick.
Personally, I think it was just he's Justin's brother.
Yep.
Let's draft him.
And only 12 months after we got Westhoff as well. Goodhoff. I'm still surprised we didn't add Lee Westhoff and Nick Westhoff to our list as well in later years. Well, there you go.
But that's a good reflection of how poorly we were actually run through those couple of years.
Well, it's understandable when you pick a reserves player in the second round of the bloody... Horrible decision.
Actually, just a question: who was our drafting dude
at the time? Blair
that
Hartley
point?
was that was his draft.
Oh, the old, highly rated, excellent, brilliant Blair
Yes,
Hartley.
but I have it on good authority that he got absolutely overruled with that pick. He
I'm not
but
surprised.
did not have the balls to stand up and say, no, this is a bad decision. So I guess it's as we always knew, what Choco wants, Choco gets. I think. But... All right, Dr. Feel, you're number 3.
Okay, Paul Coulleriotis.
Coulleriotis. That was my number 3 as well. So we can talk about this one together.
Pick 12, 1999, continuing our rubbish record of high draft picks early on in our AFL history.
Pick 12, really?
Yes,
Pick
pick
number
12.
Oh, that is...
Shocking.
How many games did he end up
3.
playing?
The big 3.
3.
It's an interesting story, Paul Coulleriotis. He was, to compare him, if you haven't seen him play, people listening, he probably compares to someone like a Matthew Broadbent in game style. He was sort of more of an outside, but could play inside. Pretty good pace, big kick. But he just couldn't get fit for a couple of years, and then he got fit and just didn't get close to a game when we were, right up the top of the ladder.
I've just never really met someone who has such a long last name that still just rolls off the tongue beautifully.
Coulleriotis.
Coulleriotis.
Shocking.
They would have loved saying that one at the when they picked him up, Pick 12.
Could you imagine Brian Taylor in modern day with Coulleriotis?
Oh.
Coulleriotis!
Cooler feeties, that's probably what he told him. Oh, look, he was a shocker. And to make matters worse, in his debut, he came onto the ground. He was playing against, I can't even remember who he was playing. It might have been the Western Bulldogs, I think. I think his first 3 kicks in his first game were out on the full. So it was really not a good game. And just a real facepalm moment.
So his career summed up Troy Chaplin's in the matter of
Pretty
3
much,
kicks.
yes. Absolutely. Made even worse by the fact that there were some pretty decent players that went after him. Robert Murphy was the next pick, who was a pretty similar player. He would have been fantastic in our side all these years. David Spriggs, David Haynes, Rhys Shaw was a father-son pick. Brad Green, Paul Wheatley, Scott Stevens.
Oh, Brad Green.
They all went in the last, in the sort of 5 or 6 picks after him, so...
But it's alright. We got the cooler.
Coulleriotis. Shocking. Absolute shocking.
He would have been, if he had made it, he would have been such a cult hero.
It's funny you mention that. There was actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to get in trouble mentioning this, but there was a real big fan girl of Coulleriotis by the name of Cooler Girl that used to post on our board, who was fanatical to say the least about Paulie Coulleriotis.
More fanatical than the Hop squad?
Yes, very much so.
Oh, that's
Followed
pretty
him to
fanatical.
Geelong when he went to Geelong, and we never heard from her again.
As in change
changed
teams, or
teams.
actually moved to Geelong?
Didn't move to Geelong.
Alright, that's
Yes, changed teams and forgot about our board and started posting on Geelong's board.
wow, that's
All
crazy.
right, Dr. Feel, number 2.
Number 2, I actually went with Barry Brooks, pick 15, 2001.
All right, that's an interesting one.
He was, obviously athletic ruckman, but he just failed to live up to any sort of expectation. Big men take time, obviously, but we traded him at the end of 2002, which was actually a very good result because we got pick 6 from St Kilda. But we then used that on Steven Selipek, who, was good for us, but I love him, but I would still call that a waste.
It's very strange to trade a first-round pick 1 year after it's been picked. It's very odd behaviour.
Well,
I can't recall another one that's happened like that.
Pick 6.
Yeah, and he didn't really have that good a year for North Adelaide that year either. He was, very skinny, very skinny, very raw, and was sitting on the bench for North Adelaide for probably 60 to 70% game time. Got a game by default most weeks, I think. And yeah, St Kilda traded pick 6 for him.
Which we then went on to kind of muff in typical Port Adelaide first round pick sense. Yeah.
I mean, we probably had no other option than to pick Salopek, I reckon, in that draft. He's the one that we wanted, and he's the one that we did end up getting, so... Yeah, I don't know. Andrew Macca went after him.
I like Sal, but it's one of those what-if things, like his shoulder holds up, he's not played out of position, he gets a good run, he's a what-if player for me. Just an interesting fact about Barry Brooks when I was doing some research. His nickname is the Cactus.
The Cactus.
The Cactus.
Well, that must be because he was tall, thin, and prickly.
Is that because of his career, or what?
It says, I believe it said because of his height and body shape.
Close
Fair enough, too.
And I also found he was a Tassie boy, so Macca, you might know this. How many Tasmanians have played for Port Adelaide?
Mark Harwood is another. He was a first-round pick in 96. Played about 20-odd games. Before the AFL days, I'm not too sure. There was a thread about this. About 2 weeks ago it was mentioned. I'm sure if you did a search for Tassie or Tasmanian, or Brooks, or something like that, you'll find a whole bunch of posts from about 2 weeks ago on this very subject.
So, check
there was about 6 or 7 pre-AFL Magpies players that did come from Tassie, or spent a fair bit of their career in Tassie.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barry Brooks. He was probably a little bit unlucky, really, because I think he did have a lot of talent, and he went to St Kilda. He was in their AFL side straight away in his first year there, and then he did his knee, and he never really recovered from that at all. He was that really sort of ruined his career.
It's a shame because it wasn't long after that St Kilda started to sort of become a pretty damn good side.
Yeah, very true. DonDraper, you're number 2.
Just continuing on that wonderful draft we had with Matthew Westhoff, I'm going to go with another family member in Marlon Motlop.
Marlon. That's a fair pick.
Big Marlon. So
I don't even want to talk about it.
Let's just recap this draft. We had Matt Westhoff at 23, Marlon Motlop at 33, and then Mitch Farmer at 48 or 49, was it? And we had Lobie at 16. So at least, we had...
Lobie took a lot of time to come on, though.
Yeah, he did, but he's come on now, so I forgive him. But that Marlon Motlop, I think he played under 10 games, surely 5, I think it was. Just for a pick of that, so 2 picks that early to just get pretty much nothing for them. Just heartbreaking, really. And the draft is so crucial. Especially now, but in 2007, the draft was really crucial in building a list, and that's just such a missed opportunity, that one. And as Macca said, look at the players that went after, players that went after Matt Westhoff and Marlon Motlop were Sam Reid, Scott Thompson, Jack Stephen, and Chris May.
Oh, that's just...
Not that awful. Sam Reid, though. It was the Bulldogs now GWS Sam Reid. Yeah.
Oh, really?
So it was the dud Sam Reid.
not
Dud
Pat
Reed.
Camry.
We got the Dud Motlop, the Dud Westhoff, and there was the Dud Reed as well. So
The dud draft for family members. Yeah.
there were some pretty good players that went. I mean, I thought we were going to pick Levi Greenwood that year.
Yes, he was another one that was after them.
And John
so,
McCarthy as well. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Question is, would you still have Greenwood today?
Probably. Yep.
I don't know that we would.
I think he's a better option than Thomas, to be honest.
Yeah, but
It's hard to say on
a big
on
enough
current,
difference to be in the side. I don't
It's
reckon.
one of those things that is pretty hard to answer, really, because on current form, with what he's done with North Melbourne, then you'd probably say no. But with us, he probably would have got more game time, really, in a pure midfield role.
He was a poor boy
He
as
was a
well, you know.
magpie.
So,
How long's
I mean,
left on his contract? Does anyone know?
I think one more year, I think.
One more year. I'm going to call it now. Delisted and picked up by us.
Yep, could happen. Definitely could happen.
could happen, yeah.
Even if it's to play in our Maggie's reserves.
Yes.
I wouldn't be
Yeah.
against that either. I was a big fan of him. I watched
Neither.
him all through the under-18s and reserves and loved the way he went about it. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Levi Greenwood. With going back to Motlop though, he's probably one that I'm really disappointed about because I thought, with his pace and his skill, with his highlights package that you saw on the AFL website, that draft, I mean, he did look like a really good player in the making, but as soon as you saw him play, he just couldn't kick, and he was incredibly slow. He's the slowest fast player I've ever seen.
He was. He was.
Lacked so much pace.
But I distinctly remember everybody just reposting that goal that he kicked. Just holding on. Holding
this.
on.
Look what he
He's
did.
going to be good, guys. He's
He
going to be
fluked the
good.
goal in a pocket. Look what he did. Yeah, he can do that again, I'm sure.
You do it
When
again.
you're 4 years on and you're playing SANFL reserves on a regular basis, you have no right to be in the AFL at all.
Yeah.
But then again, similar to Mitch Banner, he had a ripping year in the Waffle this year as well. And I know people were sort of half thinking
And
that he might get redrafted.
Question is, would you say that the Wafflers are a better competition than the SANFL?
I think it's probably slightly
They're about
behind,
on
I would say.
par. Yeah.
Slightly behind? Oh, good. That'll make Lee Wicker happy.
That it would. It would. Now, my number two is someone that I think is going to be mentioned again in this list. I'm going with player number 2135, pick 16, Port Adelaide, 2010 draft, Ben Jacobs.
He was my number
There
one.
you go. I knew it. I knew we would have him in there.
I don't like people who leave my football comment.
What
Come on.
a wanker. Absolute wanker.
He-
I don't really... He's a weird unit. Weird unit. Every time I used to see him, on the PTV videos and things like that, he just had no personality whatsoever. Absolute vanilla.
Yep. Spot on. Just why? Again, why would we do that? Why would we do... This is why I don't like Jeff Parker too much, because just wasting picks. I mean, you just cannot afford to waste first-round draft picks, especially in the position that we were at that time. And he just never looked like it at all. Just looked miles off being an AFL player. I've never seen someone turn it over so much. Just with inconsistent...
Didn't he have a really huge game for the Magpies where he got 42 touches or something like that? And then he got promoted to the AFL side and absolutely sputtered it up.
Pretty much, yeah, something about that.
And that was pretty much it on your
He was
point.
just a really poor. He was a really poor decision maker. He would just, when he got the ball, he would just look so unsure of what he was doing. Like he'd never played the game before. It was just.
Admittedly, he's looked a bit better at North Melbourne, but I still don't think he's going to cut it.
Well, he had glandular fever in his
can't.
first year and in his pre-season, lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, but you can't have that excuse
No,
now, can
absolutely
you?
not. But yeah, he picked up 24 touches in a half for the Maggies reserves in round 4, 2011. And then he was promoted to the SANFL League side, picked up 22 touches in a half, and then played 3 quarters and got 28 touches. Then he got promoted to the AFL side for his debut against Sydney after that. and absolutely spun
We were
it
pretty
up.
keen to get him in the side.
Well, I mean, he was promoted as a plug and play, draftee. Just ready to go. Round one, here's a player. He's going to play. He'll be in the side round one. That's what he was promoted as.
He had the body for it,
definitely.
and obviously, we were desperate for players that were going to have an impact. So I can sort of understand Parker's decision, but things don't work out all the time.
I don't know. And even more annoying was the players that we picked after him. That were picked after him. Sorry.
Hindsight's
I mean, everybody was into Sean Atley that year, and he went the pick after. Isaac Smith went 2 picks after that. Jed Lamb, Cameron Guthrie, they're all pretty decent.
Of all of those, I actually probably would like Isaac Smith
Oh,
the
definitely,
most.
yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Smith's fantastic.
He would be the perfect player for our side at the moment, I think.
Well, he's basically what we want Pollock to be, I'd say.
If Ollie Wines is like that stereotypical Port Adelaide boy that we picked up, then Jacobs is like the exact opposite of that.
No, just dare I say Brad Symes-esque.
Yeah. Very. Just, yeah. That's why he's my number one, because I just get so angry every time he's mentioned. But I do love all the jokes on Big Footy about him. So. And it's great to see him, I think he came on as a sub for North in their second game against Geelong, when they were quite a bit up against, when they were quite a bit up, and
Shocking.
The Cats came storming home. I think he gave up a goal or turned over the ball at a crucial stage, and I was quite happy with that.
Probably a couple of times.
Yeah, I think he got subbed off in the first game and started as the sub in the second game, and then he played 3 games for North this year.
3 or
Hardly
4,
featured.
I think.
Yeah.
But he does certainly make North, trolling them is just fluid.
Well, especially when I think it was Hard to Beat came on our board and said, "Oh, how's young Sammy Colquhoun going? What's he up to these days?" And he ended up having 3 times a year that Benny Jacobs did.
He was actually very good in the finals.
He was.
Definitely. All right, who hasn't done their number 2 yet?
No,
I don't recall.
Mine have been done.
Yours are done? Alright. I'll go with Kane Ackland, pick 27, 1999.
Kane Ackland.
Kane Ackland.
I like Kane Ackland.
I don't like him
I liked
at
the
all.
idea of Kane Ackland, but did not like Kane Ackland.
The idea of Kane Ackland.
Did not like him at all.
Nah, not Kane at all. I mean, you can only look as far as his off-field sort of history and then understand why. He seemed to grind a lot of gears in terms of players and administration. So, pick 27's not heaps, but then in the same vein, we were just having a huge cry about Matt Westhoff. But at least Kane Ackland had, a bit of an impact. But at the end of the day, he ended up, at the Saints and things like that, and played a few good games. But at the end of the day, I think that overall his effect on the culture of the club wouldn't have been good.
I like to think that James Seller modelled his career on Kane Ackland. Just a very frustrating player. He was, if I was to list my sort of top 5 most frustrating Port players, he'd probably be in the top 2 or 3, I'd say, just because he had all the physical attributes. He was really quick, a good mark, really well built, good leap. He had all the tools there to make it at AFL level, but his form at SANFL level on a yearly basis was just poor. He just struggled for consistency. He'd be a match winner one week and then not get a kick for 4. It's just very frustrating.
Yeah, sounds like Daniel Stewart.
Very similar. Very, very similar. Absolutely. That's a very good comparison. That's exactly how I used to feel about Kane Ackland back in the early 2000s.
Yep. Annoying.
All right. Now, my number 1 worst is someone that was picked with pick 5 in the 1998 draft.
Oh, I know exactly who this is. He's my number 1 as well.
Yes! Ripper. Michael Stevens. This is another why moment. Why would you pick Michael Stevens at pick 5? It was solely done based on his grand final in the TAC Cup.
But, Josh Carr picked
Josh Carr picked
Yeah,
seven.
buddy.
The thing that really gets up my goat is that I'm pretty sure that we, similar to the whole Mitch Banner, Rory Sloane thing, I'm pretty sure we were heavily into Lenny Hayes that year and made a last-minute decision.
Oh, no, don't
and made
say that.
a
Don't
last-second
say that.
decision to go with Michael Stevens instead.
That's devastating, Macca. Lenny Hayes is one of my all-time favourite footy players.
I actually want to cry.
It's
right
a
now.
disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Not just that, but Jude Bolton, Mark McVeigh, Ramanauskas.
Oh.
There were some really good players that went, in and around those picks. Very happy that Josh Carr made it, and he was someone that we reached for both of those picks. Josh Carr was, I think most people sort of saw that as a "what the hell are you doing" sort of thing. But it ended up being Michael Stevens. I mean, he just did not look like an AFL footballer at any stage of his career. Even, the year that he played at North, where he played every game. Like, he was just too skinny, too small, couldn't get the ball, couldn't kick it. Just not good enough. He got drafted on his name, and that's about it. I'm sure that's the only reason we picked him up was, oh, look, it's Anthony Stevens' brother, and he kicked 6 goals in the TAC Cup Grand Final, and that was it.
He was traded to North, was he? And we got Cochrane.
We got Stewie Cochrane.
Yeah, I like Stewie.
That was a good trade. That was a good trade.
I like
that was a good trade.
That was a winning trade.
Well, he's been enormous for us.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And players all seem to rate him. When he was player welfare manager. Our player retention's generally been extremely good. Despite Ben Jacobs, obviously, and Brad Symes, but our retention's been very good despite our all the media cracking the shits about saying that everyone wants to leave and all this sort of thing. We've actually got a very good record with retention.
Yep, we do. Definitely.
What the media...
Considering what could have happened.
Big influence.
Considering the potential of, we could have had a Brisbane type year.
A Brisbane Lions.
That definitely could have happened, and it didn't. So, thank God for that.
That's almost what was being reported without it actually happening. Like, the Brisbane type exodus is what the media were trying to make you think was going to happen, but it just never happened.
It didn't come. Not even one.
It was that year where I think it was Moore, Butcher, and Trengove were going, and they all signed. And then the next year was the Boak one, and they all stayed. Fantastic.
That Boak one.
Well, that's a pretty interesting list of worst players picked in the draft, I think. There's a couple of surprises that I thought might get mentioned. One was Adam Morgan.
Yeah, I was just looking at that.
He was in and out of my list a couple of times. I want to give a special mention to Luke Peel, who's probably the worst footballer ever to be drafted by anybody ever in the history of the draft.
I was tempted to go for a Cameron Cloak, but he was a rookie pickup, so
I didn't mind that pick at the time. I really.
Yeah.
It was a low risk pick.
Yeah, that's why I didn't include him. What about Nick Lower?
Yeah.
I think he
was our first.
No, he was picked.
I think we were probably a bit.
Was he our first pick?
Yeah, he was our first pick, and he's someone that we did absolutely reach for. I think a lot of the pre-match, you idiot, pre-draft talk was that he'd go close to the rookie draft, and we ended up pulling the trigger in the second round. So yeah, didn't work.
What about speaking of past players, the Cougar?
The Cougar. He probably had the biggest reputation and the biggest cult following for someone that didn't go close to getting a game.
He did nothing.
I don't
Everyone
even
was
think
just
he
like,
played an
"Oh, the
SANFL
Cougar."
When he was on the list. I think he played solely
reckon
in the reserves for those 2 years.
No, I reckon he did. I reckon he did play some league games, and I reckon they were like 4-possession league games. But
the only other player that I want to mention before we move on is Darren Fraser, who I'm not sure many other people will remember him. He was a Choco pick. He played under Choco in the Essendon reserves. We got him in the '97 draft. His AFL career consisted of playing in the very first pre-season match that year, the Ansett Cup game. He was on the field for 30 seconds. He got one kick, then he did his knee, missed the whole year, and then got delisted at the end of the season. Which is pretty unlucky.
Brutal,
pretty unlucky. He was actually a pretty good footballer, and he won a premiership for the Port Magpies and played a few good seasons there. So, bit of an unlucky story, that one.
What about Stephen Gillum? He hardly got a go for us, did he?
I put him out for Mitch Banner just at the last minute. Just because he was a first round pick and just didn't get a look in. Despite the fact that he probably should have.
Well, that's the thing. I wouldn't have put him in there because I think that given the chance, he would have been something. But we didn't actually give him that chance. So I didn't want to crucify him based on, what we never saw. That's right.
Yeah.
All right, moving on, so we don't slit our wrists here, and move on to the best picks that we've had. Don, do you want to start with your number 5 best draft pick for Port Adelaide?
Sure, I'm just going to preface this by saying I've gone for a very modern outlook, so I'm hoping you guys have some older players to try and spread the love a bit here. I want to start my number 5 with Alday Carlisle, who was picked 44. Now, the reason I'm going for Bobby is because I've tried to go for picks that were slightly high, and I just think that he is such an integral part of our side. He's one of our key position players that is going to be there when we're hopefully challenging strongly for a flag. I think to get him for 44 was pretty good. I think I don't know, was there much talked about him beforehand? Because he's an interesting size too, and he could have very easily not made it.
I think at the time he was thought of as a 3rd or 4th rounder. That's pretty much where he sort of went. So wasn't too much of a surprise that he got picked. But he's been a sort of low cost, high reward type player for sure.
Exactly right. Definitely.
I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I'm actually not that keen on him.
I think he took some big steps forward this year.
Divide people, yeah.
I agree, but I mean, just coincidentally, I was watching the GWS match. I think it was the second time we played them this year, and he made some serious blues, like 3 in a row. And I just thought, I remember why I find him a bit frustrating sometimes.
Oh, look, his 2011 and 2012 were a disaster, absolute disaster. He was fat.
That's an understatement.
Couldn't keep up on the lead. He barely put his hands above his head to spoil, let alone anything else.
I think it's just I'm going to have to sort of learn to see past that, but he's got to just earn it back.
Yep, that's fair enough.
He didn't have a good year, though, I think. I think his best is really good, but, I mean, you mentioned those 2 years, but, I mean, we were diabolical in those 2 years, we were a bit of a shambles, really, especially our fitness, so I think Bobby's the kind of player that needs to be on a strict regime and constantly motivated, and I'm hoping that in next year.
Interesting to see how he comes out in the after second preseason after Burgess, because Burgess did say that this preseason was ridiculously easy compared to what he's going to put them through in the second one.
Fair enough. Wow. Dr. Feel.
They're going to Dubai, I believe.
Oh, you go, mate. You go.
Are they going to Dubai? We've been to Dubai already? I don't know if we've left yet.
I think we are going very shortly.
Yeah. It'd be interesting because Burgo pretty much just trained us in Adelaide in the heat, so...
Because, Burgess is very, very keen on the heat training rather than the altitude.
Well, it's bloody hot in Dubai, so it's a good thing.
Well, good place to go then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good stuff. That's it. All right, Dr. Phil, your number 5 best draft pick for Port
Okay, I've sort of bent the rules a little bit because it is a rookie pick. I've gone with Dean Brogan, rookie pick 26 in 1999.
Oh, interesting. Very interesting. He's actually my number
1.
Oh,
really? Really?
Yeah, he's my best draft pick of Port Adelaide all time.
Really? No, I think, I probably put him a bit low, admittedly. But I think that some of the other ones that I've got in store will probably turn out to be better than Brogues ever was, and that's a huge call.
Okay. Yep, that's fair enough. I just think for where he went, second round in the rookie draft, to convince him to come to Port Adelaide. I know Adelaide were really, really keen on him as well. And what a player he ended up being. You know, he's just the ultimate low-cost, high-reward
He was
pick.
the absolute heart of our
almost
side
in
in
history.
some of our darkest years as well. He bled for us.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. To win a premiership, he was very close to All-Australian in 2003, I think, as well. Just a fantastic player, a great leader, so passionate. And look, I think he's someone that we miss. You know, his style of ruckman, the ability. You know, he was just so sure. You know, whether it was kicking out from defence, he always had a target. You know, he could go forward and kick a goal.
That said,
fantastic.
I'd always
player.
have to look away when he was kicking for goal.
Oh, not a pretty kick, but often effective.
He's
And his 2004 was fantastic.
Absolutely.
He was one of the real keys to that
Absolutely.
premiership that year.
especially with Primus going down as well.
There's
Yeah,
not any
definitely.
ruckmen really in the competition that are kind of like your Brogans and your Primuses anymore. Like the really aggressive style, you know, players. I mean, Loby's getting there. He has a lot of energy on the field. He's always jumping up and down, revving himself up. His second efforts are enormous, but Brogan just that intimidation factor was amazing.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's a really good story, Brogan. And I think,
Absolutely.
it's a brilliant
he obviously won the MBL title as well, I believe, the 36ers.
Yep.
He was
Yeah,
part
he
of the
won
squad.
at least
Yeah,
one. At
like,
least one.
It's phenomenal, really. You know, he was, as you guys said, the absolute heart and soul, really. You know, how do you reckon he'd go? And I know he was obviously still playing a few years ago. Well, actually, he was still playing for GWS, but I just think if he was younger now and he came in, do you think he'd be as aggressive, or do you think he'd be almost deployed as like the games become over tactical as a bit more of a
That's a tough one, but I think that his aggression comes directly from his personality. I mean, see Dale
Yeah.
Mortimer.
Yep. Yeah, I don't see Brogues being any different.
Brogues is his own
No matter
man.
what era he would have loved playing in the 60s
Definitely,
and 70s
yeah.
and just throttled everyone. You know, he would have he would have been a hard man. All right, my number 5 is actually another rookie pick. We picked him up in the 2005 rookie draft at pick 16. Daniel Pearce,
Yeah.
who was another sort of low risk, high reward player. I know a lot of people expected him to be drafted that year. He missed out. And he ended up... I think it was the 2004 draft, actually, not the 2005 draft. I know there was an issue with his eyesight, and we corrected it. We got him playing in contact lenses, and he never looked back.
Definitely. He had a very good impact almost immediately, didn't he, Daniel Pearce?
He did. It was quite a strange story, because he was playing in the SANFL reserves, and he spent pretty much the whole of the first 3 quarters of that year playing in the SANFL reserves, and not doing a whole lot either.
He actually suffered very badly when he puts like some weight on build his body. He suffered big time in the speed stakes.
Yeah, he was always super quick, but by the end of his time at Port, he probably wasn't.
I
as
distinctly
quick as
remember in his debut year,
what he could have been.
we were playing Freo at home. I was sitting somewhere in the pocket, and we were without a ruckman, and somehow Daniel Pearce ended up rucking against Aaron Sandilands. And it was the funniest thing I'd seen in a long time, and the crowd basically just erupted in laughter. It was really funny, because he was like fresh, you know, really skinny Indigenous kid. And it was rather humorous. And it's really strange, because he sort of was, in his early years, very aggressive. I actually found him pretty aggressive and liked to put his body on the line. And then towards the end, he just got more and more outside.
Yep. He did definitely start with a bang. He played 6 SANFL reserves games in his first year. He got upgraded mid-year, played 4 really good games in a row for Sturt, then broke through to the Port ranks against North Melbourne in a game at Canberra, I think, where we were 40 points up and ended up losing somehow. And he never looked back.
We did the reverse North.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, rising star the next year, played in a grand final. He was a really good player for Port Adelaide, I think.
Just on the flip side, I said those players that I didn't like because they left our club. I actually really like Daniel, and I was very happy for him that he played off in a grand final this year with Fremantle.
I think he had a very average game, to be honest.
He did, yeah. He really
He didn't have a good
one, but I was happy that he got there, and he had a good year for he played 150 odd games for us off a rookie list.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic, so.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, number 4s. Don, who's your number 4?
Well, keeping with the modern theme that I've got going here, I'm going for a player who is pretty much loved. He was a pick 38, so he wasn't that high, but he is an absolute fan favourite, a cult hero, purely for his nickname, the Ra.
Ra!
And then also, we had a really good draft that year. So he was 38. We got Heartland at 4, Trengo 22, the Ra 38, Redden 54. It's a massive win, really. When you look at the current makeup of our side, that's a really good draft. And that's what I was saying that about 2007. What could have been if we'd picked any of those 4 players that were currently playing in our side now? Off that ilk. It's just annoying. I'm a massive Mackie Broadbent fan. And I think what really makes me love him more is I didn't think he was going to be good. I thought there was that year.
Yeah, I thought he was very vanilla.
Yeah, I think in 2011 he had a pretty poor year. I couldn't see him getting in. And then in 2012, we didn't play that good footy, but he had his best year. He was a really good player for us. And this year, he copped a lot of, not hate, I'll say, but I think a lot of people expected a lot more of him this year.
It was just a slow start that put people off of him, but then he was pretty phenomenal, to be honest, in the second half of the year.
He's a very handy player. He can do a job for us, whether that's getting the midfield minutes and getting the ball and moving on quickly, or playing that loose man back, or on a half-back flank, on a wing. And he's a great kick,
He's actually got a very nice kicking action.
He does have a very good kick.
I love Brody. I reckon he's a great player. I still think he's got a lot of improvement in him.
Definitely, yeah. I can't believe he's younger than me and looks the way he does. He's younger than me by about 3 or 4 years as well. It's weird and spooky.
The scary thing is, imagine how good that draft would have been if we chose Rory Sloane.
Oh, you just cannot get past that one, can you?
I can't get past. That would have been up there with the famous Geelong.
It would have been. Oh yeah.
That set up their team.
I didn't want to think about that, Macca. That's phenomenal, really.
Sorry. Yeah, positive.
Just a quick one. Do you think that Rory Sloane will stay at Adelaide?
Yeah.
Yes. Forever.
Unfortunately, I think he's one of those people that has that sort of integrity.
Yep. I can't see him leaving.
Yeah.
Unless they do something drastically wrong.
I hope they do.
He is a good kid, Rory. I actually can't hate him, and I hate most of their playing list. He's a very good kid.
Yeah, I agree. I find myself cheering for him when he's playing.
I wouldn't go that far, but I don't mind watching him play.
I do. I like him.
Mm. Yeah. All right, Dr. Feel, your number 4.
Okay, my number 4, pick 39 in 1998. Can anyone guess who it is?
John Bath.
Nah.
No, not off the top of my head.
Cat dog.
Oh.
The cat dog in the best. This is phenomenal. This is
a very controversial call.
Yes.
This is very controversial.
I know, he was much maligned.
He was nearly in my worst.
He was effectively rubbish for most of his career, but give the guy credit, he made a huge impact in our maiden AFL Grand Final. I love this pick because of that. At the end of the day, he's a weird unit. But people are quick to forget his effort on that day. Like, seriously, if I could give up pick 39 for possibly a premiership winning effort, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think everyone likes to bag Toby Thurston's a little bit just because of the career he ended up having.
He actually had a couple of very good years in defence.
his 04 was really good. His well, not really good. It was solid. His 07 was really good, playing at centre half back. He was one of the main reasons.
But then again,
in
the same vein, so was
good.
Pettigrew. Pettigrew was awesome in 07.
He was, yeah, definitely. What could have been? I mean, I almost think that we half screwed his career as well, Toby Thurston's, because he's someone that was knocking on the door of selection constantly all the way through 2001 and 2002 and didn't get a game. He was the SANFL centre half back both of those years in the team of the year, and just didn't get a look in. And it ended up screwing us over in the end because in 2001 Paco did his knee on the verge of the finals, and we had no one to replace him. And then we didn't learn from our lesson and did the exact same thing a year later when Wakeland broke his jaw and had no one to replace him.
Wakeland broke his jaw? I don't think so.
Well, had his jaw broken.
Thank you very much.
He's someone that, I thought was pretty hard done by and really should have played sort of 15 or 20 games through those 2 years. And, maybe his career would have been different playing at centre-half back. But look, he ended up coming into the side and did all right as a foil.
I totally don't look at him as someone who's like a what-if, because he did all we really needed at the end of the day.
He'll always be known for kicking those 3 goals in the grand final.
Absolutely, and if you can finish your career being known for that, that's a good career.
Premiership winning player, and someone who divides people. I think that's
right.
And obviously the cat dog. I mean, no one's ever beaten that as a grand final stage so far, and no one ever will.
Ignore the child completely and yell out cat dog in the microphone. That's epic. That is epic. Oh dear.
Pick 39 for someone to say cat dog into a microphone. Yes, please.
Dear God. I would like Toby Thurston's a lot more if we did end up trading him for that first round pick to Hawthorn at the end of 04.
That was probably what we should have done. I agree with that.
Yeah. But these things
happen. That's all right. So what was Hawthorn's first round pick?
Great.
That would have been pick number...
What?
Something
we
or other.
kept them.
I don't know. Oh, it might have been 05. I know they I think it was pretty much a done deal, and then something happened. Peter Road went the wrong way, or something like that, and we missed out trading him by about 2 minutes, I think.
Classic Road.
Yes. All right, moving on. My number 4 from the very first draft, pick 37. Have a guess.
Very first draft, or our zone selection?
Our very first draft. No, very first draft.
I'm not sure.
No.
Adam Kingsley.
Oh, Kinger.
Big Kinger.
I was a huge fan of him when I was a kid, actually, now that I think about it. But when I grew up, I decided that I didn't like him. I don't really know. Maybe it's the fact that he sort of destroyed out.
That follows my form line as well with him.
What? But I.
Oh, look, when he came in, he was a fantastic pickup. He was a great player. He played 3 years under Choco at Essendon in the reserves, didn't get a go. We got him here, and he was fantastic straight away. He won our best and fairest in 98, and he was well on the way to winning the best and fairest in 97 as well.
He did his shoulder and was going to be delisted, I think. It was...
not sure he was going to be delisted. He played every game.
There was a cloud over him at one point, I think, where he was going to be delisted.
Oh, that was end of 03.
He did get cut, didn't he? He almost got cut.
No, he didn't end up getting cut. He got told he was going to be cut. Then he lost about 6 kilos and came back.
Kinger, I like your hustle. That's why I'm so hard to cut you.
That's it.
That's why I think that story makes it even better that he was in our 22 in 04. And obviously kicked the goal later on. I've actually mentioned that twice on this podcast. Adam Kingsley's sealer.
You have, yeah. Oh, look, he was a good, solid, very good player.
He was Kingsley.
He was a good player. Even though he had a couple of, I don't know. It was funny because I think internally the supporters were really critical of his play at halfback, but externally, I mean, the AFL world seemed to love him, and a lot of them had him close to All-Australian in 2002.
Can you see him making a coach? He's actually in the Lions for the St Kilda job, apparently.
I am totally not keen on him as a coach.
It would be a weird decision.
I can't see it, but who knows?
Yeah.
Who really knows?
Yeah, the whole like double fisting in defence while coach of our defence. Yeah, I'll never forgive that.
Yeah, fair call. All right, number 3s. DonDraper, number 3.
Okay. A very maligned player, but and I didn't like him. I wanted him away from the side in a moment of anger, but he's now... I reckon I'm going to get his number on the back of my Guernsey next year. That's how much I love Cameron O'Shea at pick 52.
Dude, I love that guy. I was always on the O'Shea train. Never jumped off. While everyone around me was like, "Oh, that O'Shea, he's soft. He's no good."
No, I think I mean, pick 52. You know, I mean, he was our last pick in 2010. That was the Ben Jacobs draft. Now, if we picked up Cameron O'Shea at pick 16, he'd be a good value. You know. I think that's the offset of taking Ben Jacobs.
Those intercept marks he was taking towards the end of the year were just sublime.
He is a great contested mark. He is an extremely courageous player, and he's the man.
He can run as well. He's supremely fit.
His engine is fantastic. He'll be one of our best players next season. He's just as you said, he's so fit.
No doubt.
What I love about him is he seems to get to every single contest. Like he's just there, and it's like how you were just there, and he just zings between.
He doesn't seem to slow down as the game goes on.
No, it's great seeing him along.
He's definitely our fittest player, and
probably
he almost seems to get quicker as the game goes on.
Yeah,
late in the last quarter, so many times this year, he was the one making the play every single time.
I think
just. In terms of his fitness and pace and ability to run and carry,
I wonder if he'll get.
He's a great player.
If he'll get any kind of attention.
I think.
I think the sky's the limit for Cameron O'Shea. I think he could I can definitely see him AFL All Australian quality next year and beyond. I think that should be his standard that he wants to achieve.
He also, I think, playing the two finals of the MCG really suited the way.
You're cutting out.
He played halfback. It's just great, I think next year he will just go bang. He'll be a much loved player, not only for us, but I think he'll get a lot more recognition nationwide.
I don't think he actually needs to improve to get further recognition. If he can remain that consistent sort of form that he had this year, he'll make All Australian.
But he's still young, so he's definitely got improvement in him, which is great for us.
That's right. I mean, player like sort of Macca sort of traditionally held that position in the All-Australian side, but I reckon O'Shea can probably knock him off.
And you talk about the interchange caps coming in as well. When you have supremely fit athletes that can use the ball well and, just run all day and bash and crash packs. It's
worth his weight in gold.
Yeah, exactly right.
Definitely. All right, Dr. Feel, your number 3.
My number 3, I'm going to go with Grazer, pick 55, 2006.
Yes,
nice even though he's taken a little while. People were pretty critical of him this year, even though he was just coming back from like a knee reco. We've seen how ridiculously good this guy can be, especially in like the midfield and things like that. I mean, we played him sort of a bit sparingly in the midfield this year, but I think that was more to do with the fact he was coming back from a knee reco. If he can get a full pre-season done this year, I reckon this guy can just about set the competition on fire.
Yeah, well, he was pre-knee injury. I think he was trending towards being, a best and fairest capable player for us.
I think he can sort of only get better from there.
My question to you guys then is, where is his best position? Would you want him starting midfield if he's fully fit, forward pocket, half forward flank?
It's one of those things that you just have to leave up to the coaching staff. But I think that probably his best position would be the midfield. Mm-hmm. But I'm not opposed to him playing up forward. But with Monfries now, Gray and Monfries are interesting. I think that especially if we come across some like wet weather and things, Gray and Monfries will be extremely good up forward in wet weather conditions. But I think that ideally I'd like to have him in the midfield. But if he plays elsewhere, it doesn't really bother me.
It's
I think
a
that-
win-win for
It's
us,
really 50-50
It is.
for me.
It is.
It's really 50-50.
But I think that he's one of those players that should start on the bench. I don't think he's one of those players that should start on the field.
Interesting. He was actually my
Yeah.
number 2, by the way, Robbie Gray. There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
He's such good value at
Yeah,
55.
I think he's very good value pick. Great value pick. I think for me, I love his ability to win clearances at stoppages. I think that's probably his best
Yeah.
trait. But then again, I also love his score assists and goal assists up forward as well. So it's really 50-50 on where I think his best position
What
Why
is.
was-
can't we have
I
both?
think probably forward
Yeah.
flank. Oh, exactly. Yeah.
What was Gray's form like going into the draft, Macca? Do you know? Like, was he talked about?
Oh, he had a great. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he kicked over 50 goals in the TAC
Okay.
Cup that year, playing as a forward pocket. So his talent was there. Everyone sort of knew about him. It was his tank which saw him drop.
Yeah.
I think
And that's
it was really whether he had the ability to take that
and
sort
that
of form
still
to the AFL
still
level.
seems to be the bugbear.
Yeah, possibly. Yep.
But you never know.
I remember his,
You can't deny his form at AFL level, though. I mean, he is a very competent, very good AFL player.
Absolutely.
he's definitely, yeah, I think his first game back as well was after the knee record was the sub appearance against Gold Coast, and I remember he ran on, and I reckon his first action, he just flung his body
Yeah.
kamikaze-like into
I
this
remember that.
contest,
I remember
and
that.
my
He had
heart
Yeah.
sunk, and I was like, what is he doing?
was-
What on
yeah,
earth are you
has he
doing?
done, you know? I remember, like, when he got injured against Collingwood, like, I was very, very upset. That was just so sad. I was
He's one of
devastated,
those
you know.
players that you just love.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. All right, my pick number 3 was from the 2000 draft. Pick number 50, Dom Cassisi.
Ah, I had him next as my 2.
Oh,
Yes.
number 2.
Dom.
Just another good value pick. You can't go wrong with that pick. That's a fantastic pick. Captained the club. You know, was the heart and soul of our midfield for a couple of years there. Yeah, fantastic.
He's just
pick
one of
up.
those players that does the real down and dirty things. He's a team player. You know, he came into prominence in 2004 when it was sort of like, you know, very important for him to do so. And when he got, when it was being rumoured that he'd been made captain, I was very happy with that decision, and I still think it was a good decision. He
Same, I agree.
It was.
He's even though we had some very, very bad years, I still think that his leadership style probably is another reason why we've managed to keep these guys together.
Talking about those bad years, but Dom can hold his head high, you know? Like, I think he...
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
he did so many... He's such a great team player. Does the one percenters. Doesn't complain. Really humble guy, you know? Like, yeah. I don't know if he's got... do you guys think he'll get a game next year? Do you think he's around the mark, or do you think it's up to him?
I think
Really?
it's probably going to be the end.
Yeah.
I think it'll be his last year.
It'll be his last year. I wouldn't mind seeing him. I think he could do a role type, like, you know, for us every now and then.
Yeah, but I think that in a way, I think that the roles that we're sort of looking at him for are probably, you know, that's what we got Matt White in for.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be good
I think
to
this
go
year
back.
he probably fell into that, you know, 16th to 20th best player.
Yeah.
Now he's probably 20th to 24th, so he's either just in or just out, I reckon.
Depends on the form of the guys we bring in, though.
Yeah. Oh, look, if he gets games, he'll deserve it. You
that's
know,
it.
he deserves a good year.
Yeah, I'm not going to begrudge his selection during the year if he does get picked.
All right. Well, I think so. That was your number
Yes,
2
it was,
as well, Dr. Phil. And Gray was your number
Yep.
2, DonDraper. All right. My number 2 is pick 71 in the 2007 draft. Sorry, 2006 draft. Is Justin Westhoff.
My pick number 1, Macca. My
Your
one.
Your one, my one as well.
Hey.
Oh, there he is. The off. What a
Yeah,
pick. What a
Just
great pick.
incredible.
Yeah, we go through. I went through that 2008 draft earlier. I think 06 was Boak at 5, Gray 55, Westhoff 71.
Amazing drafts.
I mean,
Yep, Paul Stewart in there as well.
yep. You know, and that's just absolutely
And
fantastic.
D-Rod.
D-Rod, yeah. When you look at that, Boak, Gray, Westhoff, Hartlett, Trengove, Broadbent, all played in finals, for us this year.
Yep.
Just goes to show how crucial getting those draft picks right is. And I think you said a few weeks ago, Macca, the recruiters make their money, and make their name by getting the late picks right. And
absolutely.
And Justin West at the 71 is just, he was a diamond in the rough, and he's just produced so many magical moments for us. And so many extremely frustrating hair-pulling out moments. But, I think this year he did really well. And I know I did a player review last week, Macca. I didn't mean to have words with you. I thought you were very harsh on Justin.
Yeah, I just think he struggled at times this year and wasn't as good as what people ultimately thought. But look, he's been a fantastic pick. To pick someone that late. I know at the time I was really keen on Nick Gill and was pretty shattered that he went to the pros just beforehand. And I was like, I don't mind Westhoff, but I would have preferred Nick Gill.
John Hinge, I would have preferred him.
Johnny Hinge, yeah, Ryan Nye. Yeah, but yeah. Very glad that Westhoff's had the career.
We don't even really need to discuss too much about him because it's just an obvious one, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah, it's probably the obvious one. I went for Brogan with my number one just because he won a flag and was close to Old Australian. But yeah, I did have Westhoff number one there for quite a while and changed him around.
Hang on a minute. So does that mean that, Donnie, you didn't have Dean Brogan on your list?
No, I went for a modern uptake, remember?
Okay, alright.
That's fair enough. He gets...
No, Brogan was one of my all-time favourite players. No, I actually didn't think we were doing rookie picks. I think if I was including rookie players, then Tommy Jonas could have definitely made it.
Yep, he was one that was in and out of mine. He was probably next in.
I think that I'd leave him out for now, but probably in the future, definitely.
I had a lot of players go through. I'm looking at my list now. I've got about 13 players that could have snuck into the best. I sort of hummed and ahhed about putting a Chad Corns or a Kane.
Yeah, so did I.
They were first round picks that we got absolutely.
I've got a. Okay, it's not a draft pick, but it is a trade, and it's one that's going to upset some people. But it's one that I just.
Nathan Looney.
No, it's not Nathan Looney. Scott Cummings, 1996, draft picks 2 and 28 for one good year.
Yep, I think it was worth it.
I think we overpaid.
Well, it was kind of... I don't think we had a choice.
Really?
Yeah, because we, as part of the agreement, we could pick, I think, 4 uncontracted players, and whoever we picked, they got the first 4 picks in that draft in reverse ladder order. That's why West Coast got Ian Downsborough. For Ian Downsborough, they got pick 1. Yes. And certainly wasn't by design. We did not trade pick 1 for Ian Downsborough. Pick 1 wasn't ours to give away.
Just as a contrast, Bombers picked up Heffernan, I think it was.
West Coast got, was it Michael Gardner? Was that their pick 1?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I actually had a lot of time for Michael Gardner.
No, it was a good rock one, yeah.
Yeah, so that I'm pretty sure the pick 28 was as well. That wasn't ours to actually give away. It was just sort of like an AFL incentive to give up uncontracted players.
Fair enough.
To the new team.
Question for you guys. Just I was going over the draft, and 2009 we had John Butcher, Andrew Moore, and Jasper Pittard. If you told me in 2009 that John Butcher would be where he is now in his development for pick 8, I'd be absolutely devastated. But I'm still a John Butcher fan. Would you do it again?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Even if he fails and never plays another AFL game, we didn't have any other choice but he was the absolute obvious.
It was the obvious pick, and I remember being at the Port Club watching the draft, and I remember everybody cheering when we actually picked him up. So it was a very good pick at the time. As Macca said, I don't think we really had a choice. But whether he makes it or not, obviously you can be a revisionist and say, look, we should have taken someone else. But at that time, I really don't think we could have taken anyone else.
I reckon you could go through.
It's one of those picks you have to make. It's just an obvious pick. We needed a tall forward. We got the number one tall forward in the draft. Whether he makes it or not from then on, it doesn't mean it's bad.
On John Butcher, do you think this is the year that he has to do something?
Definitely. Without a doubt.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, if he has another year like this, he could end up delisted, let alone traded.
If he has another year like this, though, he's got no trade value, in my opinion.
Well, that's why he'll get delisted. He'll probably get picked up by another club, but we'll definitely delist him.
Yeah, which is a shame because that was a draft we really needed to get spot on. And right now, I mean, everyone knows my opinion on Pittard, and Moore is slowly getting there. And I think he will get there.
Everyone knows your opinion on Pittard. I don't. What's your opinion on Pittard?
Yeah. Well, I think he's crap.
I'm not keen on him either. Thank you very much.
I'll stick up for.
I just think with that draft, we had to go two tolls in that draft. It was just a spot on. It was a draft full of tolls. We had Daniel Talia there. There was Aaron Black as well.
I think it's
we just should have done it. Should have done it.
Again, Choco special. Let's load up on thin flankers.
Yep. Because we probably could have got more with pick 16.
Yeah, I like Moore. I think he's the pick of the bunch so far. But I think
he has a long way to go.
He does, but I think I think he'll get there. Like I think he's first 22. You know,
he made massive inroads this year. He did actually some very, very good defensive jobs this year.
Mhm.
He did, yeah.
And I also like Pittard, just in case he's listening.
He's one of those players that can make horrible blues with the ball, but I am a little bit sort of defensive of him in that regard because he does get given the ball in those sorts of situations where it is very dangerous if you do make a stuff up. So, he does the kick-ins and things like that, which is a tough role. Like, I mean, all the people that do the kick-ins say it's a very tough role. So,
extremely tough role, yeah.
Yeah, and so I have a bit of time for him in that regard, but I just not ready to say that I like him.
Just on the kick-in though, it's an extremely tough role. I think more so in the last few years because it's just the forward press that's evolved. You know, like teams push right up, like there's no space, and you just kind of want your best kickers, and they are going to make mistakes. Pittard's, we've kind of gone with he'll get better, he'll get more composed. Next year is when he needs to be composed because that excuse won't go. In
the last couple of month or so of the season, he was definitely starting to show why he was good. But I think that he still has a long way to go. I mean, especially he's still pretty injury riddled as well. He just seems to break down just when he's starting to hit form.
Yep.
He had a good final against Collingwood.
Certainly. Yep.
He did.
I'm really hoping the finals can push a lot of those players on to want to get there again. You know, being there is amazing. You need to want to go back there, you know?
I think that that losing that final to Geelong and in the way that we did, I think was probably a best case scenario for us, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that it sort of gives them, they don't get ahead of themselves, they realise what it takes, they, still have that hunger. It's that sort of thing that it's the step in the right direction that we needed without, sort of going too far and overachieving.
Yeah.
Yep. Just back on the kick-ins, I long for the days where it was just Paxman kicking a 55-metre kick straight down. Take your pick, Matthew Primus, Dean Brogan, Daryl Wakeland.
Wakeland was amazing.
They just always take
Wakeland
them
was
fantastic every single time.
That. Just taking that grab on the halfback, Just
Wakeland, when he was playing, I reckon Wakeland was probably my favourite player between him and Lade.
Yeah,
right.
I
love those guys.
Fair enough. Just back onto the best players, just briefly, I'm going to make a premonition and say that if we were doing this in 3 years' time, Sammy Cahoon will be in the top 2.
Ooh, big call.
Good one, Macca. Big call. What about Mason Shaw?
Could be. Yeah, could be.
I'm not willing to make any sort of forecast on Mason Shaw at this point.
What about in 3 years' time with back-to-back Coleman medalist John Butcher at pick 8?
Doubtful.
Oh,
Doubtful.
dear.
I don't think he's ever going to be. I don't reckon he's ever going to be a first target.
Yeah. We also did mention in 2010, so I picked 35, so our second pick. We took Ben Newton. Hasn't played a game yet. What do you guys think of
Ben
Benny?
Newton's he's had a lot of time.
He had injuries though.
He has had injuries, but I'm going to say dud.
Macca?
And I think that's probably going to annoy Smaller Warrior, but dud.
He might get 1 or 2 games this year, I think. I hope he makes it.
Yeah.
Because I think we need another midfielder to add depth to the squad, but I think he's up against it, to be honest.
It'll be interesting to see how he goes in the preseason, because he will get a few games then, I would assume.
Yeah. Hopefully he stays fit for the whole year.
Yeah.
But we're getting good depth now, you know. It's a positive sign.
Well, it is a positive sign. You know, when we can actually make that step and say Newton's a dud. You know, you're in a decent position if you can start calling players duds rather than saying, no, we're going to hold out just a little bit longer. He'll come good.
That's it. All right. Well, we might wrap this up because this has gone way over time, which is all right. Dr. Feel, thanks for coming on. And Don Draper.
Yeah, man. See you later, man.
Donnie, are you
Yes, I am. Sorry, just got cut off there.
there? Now,
Good timing.
now, do you have who's got some fishing tips? Considering Rick's not here.
I'm not sure. I can make some up if you want. Yeah.
Do it.
I think if you head down to Brighton, there'll be some mullet in the area as I lean back on my squeaky chair with my cigar.
Mullet.
That's it. Nice one. All right, boys. Thanks for coming
All right,
on.
mate.
And go the
Go
power.
the Power.